say you're fine, but I can see right through you, holding your secrets for way too long. This can't keep going on. With every lie, they keep on hurting you, getting away with everything they do. This can't keep going on, no. We're gonna find them, and I'm gonna fight for you. They better start hiding. We'll be running with the lions, lions. We'll be running with the lions, lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the lions, lions.
Hello, everyone, and happy Sunday, our first Sunday in December and our first Sunday after Thanksgiving. I hope you guys all had a fabulous holiday weekend, and I hope that you got a chance to eat a lot of great food and spend some wonderful time with family and friends. And hopefully, if you were traveling, it wasn't so terrible. I know years ago I decided that I was not going to travel on Thanksgiving because I find it absolutely horrifying. So unless I absolutely have to, I try not to. So my heart goes out to anyone who had to travel, and hopefully it was simple for you. But for those of you who are new to the show is Gloves Off. And every week we gather here today because I always make a point to have a guest on that has done something a little different in their life, done something a little more courageous us or society tells us that we should do. So that's what the show is about. And usually every week there is somebody with a story. And I love deep diving not only into their career path, but into their personal story as well, because so much of our personal stories shape who we are. So, as I said, I'm Dr. Kalpana.Unbound. I took my gloves off years ago as a surgeon. It's been almost 5 years. I cannot believe it. And decided to change my life and do something completely different. So my goal was always time freedom and location freedom. And that's just big to me. And I realized that I didn't get that opportunity being stuck in an office, stuck in the operating room. So our guest today, I'm really excited because her name is Tammy Long. She is an accountant, a CPA, and she belongs to Elevated CPA Solutions, which is the firm that sponsors the show every week. So I'm so utterly grateful because they've been doing that since the show started. So she has an interesting story. She tells me she did it backwards. And what does that mean? Well, she did it backwards because she started going to school. Then she got married, had kids, and then went back to school later. And, these days that may not sound like a big deal, but, it's funny. Our society has changed over the decades. Early on, everybody was just getting married and not really thinking about their career. Then I would say, as I started to enter the career field, I'm noticing more and more people are just really delaying family and pursuing their career. So that's kind of an interesting topic we're going to get into. And also we're going to talk about the firm, how they do things differently and all that good stuff. But before we do all that, we're going to hear a little bit about what they do on this commercial. Well, one thing I find interesting is that if you're a small business owner yourself, I think you do things a little bit differently. And Tammy is also a small business owner. They really focus on dealing with healthcare firms, and that's obviously why I met them, because I was in health. And still am in some version of healthcare. And what I love about the company is they really do take a family-oriented approach, because taxes, the IRS, all that stuff can be very, very daunting for people like us. And it's important to know that somebody has your back. So, well, before I delay this any longer, let's get Tammy on here and we'll have a nice conversation with her. Well, hello, Tammy, and welcome to Gloves Off. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Hello. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm excited to get you on here. It's been a while in the making. So, and I love how when we were talking earlier, you said that you did it backwards. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that, because, I really think that life is different. Each of us has such a unique experience, and yet I feel that society and other people are always sort of asking us to conform. Like, it's supposed to be done this way. So God forbid, if you don't do it in the way that they think you should do it, it feels like you're doing something wrong. So I was curious, when you started, obviously you started and stopped. And can you tell us a little bit about what that story went, how that story went?
Yeah. So like I got out of high school, and high school was high school. I wasn't a great student. I wasn't a horrible student, but it was, it is what it is. But I took accounting in high school and I really liked it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to a 2-year school, then I'll go to a university. And then my dad got cancer. And so I had to stop going to school to kind of help my mom take care of my dad. And in that process, I ended up meeting my now husband. And, life just happened. Like, the next thing I knew was, 3 kids later, and we're jogging along. I was working in accounting, but I hadn't, I was just kind of bookkeeping here and side jobs there. I was working remote before we even knew what that was. I was working with a small business owner, and, and then we ended up moving to Florida. We lived in the DC area. After 9/11 and everything, we kind of decided, let's get out of here. Let's go to a slower place of life. And we ended up in Jacksonville. So again, I was working with a contractor doing their accounting. And then '07 came and construction came to a screeching halt. And so I went from working full time to, if I was lucky, if I could get 15 hours a week. And my husband worked in construction. He worked in sales too. And it was just sort of this pivotal moment, like, okay, we need to do something. Something needs to shift. So I decided to go back to school. And I went back to school. I went to FSCJ, then I went to UNF, and I finished my 4-year degree. And I met a recruiter for a local accounting firm. And we talked, and then, mind you, now I'm in my 40s now. Like, I'm that person in your class that everybody's younger and everybody's like, oh my gosh, what's she doing here? And I'm kind of feeling like, what am I doing here? This is crazy. Trying to go to school full time, trying to raise a family full time, working. I was still working. But when times get tough, you got to do what you're going to do. Like, you either make it better or you don't. So long story short, I ended up at that accounting firm and worked my way as an intern, a 40-year-old something intern, to when I left, I was a senior tax manager. So, it can be done. It's just, you got to have faith in yourself. You have to have a good support system, and you got to get over that fear of, well, this isn't what I was supposed to do. Like you mentioned earlier, society says, well, you've got to do it XYZ way. And sometimes you got to do it ABC way.
Right. So I'm curious, how did you meet your husband in the midst of taking care of your father with cancer?
We met at a bar.
That's the way we used to do it back then.
Yeah, we met at a bar and through a mutual
friend. Better
friend.
than online, honestly.
Yeah. And we just hit it off, and we dated for a couple of years, and then we ended up we were together, and then we broke up. And then my mom had a townhouse that I decided to move into to rent from her, but I needed roommates, and so he decided he was going to be one of the roommates. And yeah, and so we were quote unquote friends, and but it evolved from there, and so we got married.
That's interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna deep dive into that now. I was like, that's interesting. So, so how long was it since you from when you broke up to when he decided to be your roommate? Because
I think maybe 6 months to a year. I can't really remember, but it wasn't long. And then we were probably living together about 3-4 months, and we just ended up naturally getting back together. So,
well, he's smart. He clearly had a suspicion. I gotta give him credit. I mean, I've never met your husband, but I gotta give him credit. That's bold, and I like it. He just sleep, was patient, but felt like there was an option there. So and the reality too is sometimes enough time goes by, whatever issues were, they dissipate or they can be worked through after some time.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. And I think we got to know each other a little bit better, because you're living under the same roof, and you get to learn how to compromise and, divvy out chores amongst the roommates and whatnot. So
yeah, that's funny. That's cute. If I were to meet your husband, I'd be like, oh, that was smart. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just go back one more time to some of the things we were talking about when you were, you doing it, you went to school, you stopped. But here's the thing, what I heard in that story, I know society may hear, oh my God, she didn't do it the right way, blah, blah, blah. But this is what I heard out of that whole story, was that you followed what you needed to do at that time. Because frankly, it's really ridiculous for society to mandate or dictate anything or other people, because our lives are different. I mean, I think it's wonderful that you got to spend time with your father and help take care of him and help your mom. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
Continue school. Frankly, when I was I started college, and my dad was having open heart surgery. And honestly, I didn't know what was going to happen. Luckily, he made it through. He's still here with us today. So I'm grateful. But in that moment, I honestly wasn't sure how that was going to affect my life if things didn't go well. So it's a real thing. And that's what we're supposed to do, is be there for our families and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. And, because you're not going to get that time back. And even now my mom's older, and, she's going through some stuff. So, I'm an only child. So I'm one who, takes appointments and helps her. She just moved into a new apartment. So we've just been dealing with a lot with her, but you got to do it. That's just how I am.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the other thing. If you have other siblings to bear the brunt of this, it's a whole different dynamic. If you're the only child, it's a different dynamic. I mean, there's so many factors at play. So how the heck can we prescribe a one size fits all course plan of life to every single human being? It's absolutely ridiculous. So, I want to talk a little bit more about that too, because men and women face different things in their career world. And, there are definitely these days, I feel men are more and more involved with the family than probably my father's generation, where their whole role was to just go to work and come home. And although it's getting better, I still would say that the brunt of family responsibilities tends to fall on the woman. And even if there is, I mean, I'm not saying that's always the case, but if there's a woman and if there's a daughter and a son, I would say the brunt of it would fall on a daughter most of the time, not all the time. But I hate making generalizations. There's always cases where it's not true. But have you experienced that in your life? And would you say
I have, and I will, and the first firm I worked at, which was, the largest privately owned public accounting firm in Jacksonville, they had I think 10 male partners. Every single one of their partners, the wife was a stay-at-home mom or something. That's just how it was. And so there was definitely this feel of, you really should be home with your kid, and, so when you're getting promoted and you see that, well, the guys are kind of advancing more, the guys were making more money. So that was a little frustrating. But for me personally, I don't really know if it was like my husband was just like, oh, you got it. This is your job. But I think because, I will say my husband he was always their coach. If it was ice hockey or baseball or soccer, or he was very involved with their, sports and whatnot. My boys played travel ice hockey. He would take one kid, I would take the other, and we'd go on our separate ways. But yeah, but I have seen situations where, the woman's job was to take care of the family, take care of the kids, take care of the husband, and then work full time. And no questions asked. I mean, that's just how it was. And I think we're coming a long way from there. I think we're kind of getting away from that, but I still see instances like to this day where it happens. And you just kind of want to be like, you need to set, if you're struggling, you need to talk, you need to communicate. And, maybe they don't understand that that's how you feel.
Right. Well, sometimes the women don't understand that they feel that way either, because they're so conditioned to think that this is normal. And there's a lot more awareness, I would say, these days.
Yeah.
More concepts of filling your own cup and self-care, and let people know, you need to speak up when you're at your wit's end and all of those things. I do believe that family units are much, much different than they used to be. I mean, there are actually a lot of households now that the father is the stay-at-home person, because the woman out earns the wife is working and she's the breadwinner. So society's really changed. And I think that my big goal in all this is to bring light that there's so many different ways to do this. There's so many different ways to live life. And really each person, each family, each couple needs to really decide what that is and what's better for them and their family. Because again, I mean, we can't do this one size fits all theory.
No, we can't. And, as long as I think if it's working for your family, then great. That's what's important.
Right. And now that your kids are grown, and do you feel, has it been interesting being an empty nester?
Yeah, it is. It's somewhat,
hang on.
They're here all the time. Yeah.
No, all of a sudden there was something buzzing.
I think it's my computer. It's freaking out. Hold on. Let me plug it in. I was like, what is that noise?
Yeah, I heard it. I was like, what is that?
Hold on. Let's see if this is it. Technology. We'll see what happens. I'm sorry. What was the question? Oh, my kids. My kids.
Yeah. So they're around all the time.
They're still around. They all live in town. There's good points and there's bad points, but once they're gone, it's like, oh, this is awesome. But we have Sunday dinner. I do have Sunday dinner every Sunday, which I know is kind of old fashioned, but that's really the only way I'll get to see them.
I think it's great to have those traditions.
Yeah. And, it's not like they come to everyone, but,
Right. But at least they know
the door's opening.
Yeah, I think that's great. Honestly, I think it's a wonderful kind of tradition to uphold, because frankly, I've noticed is my parents didn't have a lot. I never lived near them anyway in my adult life. But I'm just saying that if you have that option, I think it's really nice. They just know the door's open and they can come when they want to. I think it's wonderful, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. When we get my mom over here and, they get to see grandma and spend some family time together.
Right. So, and then also what other, as far as, remember when I met you, I think it was at the boat show when we met. Now, are you involved in the yachts and all that as well?
Not really. That's Doug's sort of side of the business. I'm more involved with, I have a lot of individual only clients that are senior citizens. And that seems to be my niche, like part niche. I have a lot of people that don't drive anymore. They live by themselves, which is scary to me. I always freak out. So I'll go to them because it's really hard to find a CPA that was willing to go to the client.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I moved my office into Ponte Vedra, and I have a lot of seniors that live right around there. And so I go and see them. I pick up their documents, or I send, my assistant or something to go to them because, they get really worried about this sort of thing. And they just need somebody to be like, yeah, I'll listen to you. I'll help you. I don't mind, I don't mind visiting with you. So that's kind of what that takes up, a lot of my time during busy season.
Wow, I think that is really, really wonderful. Well, frankly, I think that our elderly really deserve more patience than most of us give them.
Yeah.
And I find that I see it all over the place that people are frustrated with them. They walk slow,
Mhm.
they drive slow, they move
Yes.
slow, they do everything really slow.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I mean, I hear the greatest stories. Like one of my clients was a New York socialite, and I get to hear all the stories about back in the day. And I have another client who was a professor at Georgetown University, and we talk about things that, I can't just talk about with, everyday people because, it's just not, the opportunity's not there. So
oh,
it's pretty neat.
that is really neat. Yesterday, I was at the post office, and normally I hate going to the post. I don't like going to the post office anyway.
Yeah.
The lines are crazy, but somehow I got there and there was nobody in front of it. It was just one older lady in front of me,
Mhm.
and it was a small post office in the town that I live in. And
Mhm.
I actually never been there before because I go to the bigger post office, and I thought,
Mhm.
oh, I just found out it's right here, so let me just pop in there. Well, he was so patient with the lady. Apparently, she comes in there all the time. She was mailing
Mhm.
something for Christmas for her family members or something.
Mhm.
She was 94.
Wow.
And I was standing there, and I make an effort now not to be in a hurry all the time where I'm
Yeah.
motivated by everything. So anyway, I'm patient these days. I used to not be when I was in my surgical practice. But anyway, I just waited and I just enjoyed the conversation that they were having and how
Mhm.
polite and sweet he was to her, showing her all the tracking information so
Mhm.
patiently. So I mentioned it to him. I said, you know what? Usually you go to the post office and people work there, they hate being there and they don't,
Mhm.
they're not nice to anybody. But I said,
Right.
it was just such a joy watching you be so pleasant to her and how happy she was. And she had on
Mhm.
some cute little makeup.
Mhm.
And then that's what I said to him. I said, I wonder what she's seen in the 94 years that she's been alive.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So you get to do that on the
Yeah.
regular.
Yeah. Yeah.
And really, all we
And
have
then
to
they
do
meet
is
their
have patience.
families, and, it's, and I feel bad because like they're so independent. Like they want their independence so bad. And so when they can't drive anymore, that seems to be what gets them. But
Yeah.
I'm like, it's okay. Like, I'll stop on by and, we'll go over all your documents. And I think sometimes they just want somebody to talk to,
Oh
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
It's not
So,
easy. It really is not easy and when you get older. But I
yeah.
just think that's wonderful and I didn't even know that about you. So
Yeah.
that's what I love about doing this show. I undoubtedly will uncover something really interesting that I didn't even know about a person because
Hmm.
we're just having a conversation about things. It's
Yeah.
amazing. So I want to actually go back to what got you interested in accounting. What was it that drew you there?
I think it was the class in high school. Like it just clicked for me. I mean, I think a lot of people, it's like accounting 101. Like you either get it or you don't. Like that's the class where they weed everybody out. But for some reason, I really liked it. But I was scared to go to college. I think part of it was because my dad's health was kind of iffy.
Mhm.
I went to the local community college. I had gotten accepted in Virginia Tech, but for whatever reason, I was like, I'm not going to go. Which, looking back, like I wouldn't have met my husband if I had gone to Virginia Tech. So, things work out. But, it just clicks with me. Like that's all I can say is it clicks with
Mhm.
me. It's interesting. I like helping small businesses. I help explaining this is your balance sheet. This is your profit and loss. This is what you can look at to like understand like where the money's going, how it's coming in.
Mhm.
These are how much liabilities you have. um, it's just something I enjoy doing.
Well, don't you think that everybody really should know how to do this? I mean, I have to tell you, I consult with aesthetic providers to
Mhm.
help them, grow their business and whatnot.
Mhm.
So many of them do not
Yeah.
even have a clue
And
what.
that's not unusual. I mean, I have so many business owners that that's why they hire us because they want to grow. They know what their craft is. They want to spend time growing and nurturing that craft. But at the end of the day, you kind of need to get an idea because that's the foundation for your business. And if you have a weak foundation and you're not paying attention to the numbers, it could get bad pretty quick. So I'm always willing to sit down with my clients and go over things, make suggestions on, hey, maybe we can cut back here and cut back there and, or try this sort of advertising and whatnot. So,
I think that's great because a lot of accountants won't really get into all that.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm understanding is that a lot of small business owners don't have accountants. They think it's an expenditure they don't need, that
Yeah.
it's very important. But I
Yeah.
always tell them my first recommendation is always, if you have a small business, you need an
Yeah.
accountant. Uh,
Yeah.
there's just really a good accountant saves you more money than often.
Yeah, definitely a good investment. And, I think people are just, everybody's so overwhelmed with things, but
Mhm.
if you can get an accountant early, it's definitely going to help your business.
Oh, yeah. The bottom line is that if you've had the same person, especially for several years, like I've been with you guys for
Mhm.
at least 5 years or more, I don't really even know, but it's just, it's really helpful because I have to say, we don't realize how much mental energy it takes us to worry about things we don't really understand or know,
Mhm.
because then people don't think about it. They're like always thinking about money. Everybody's,
Yeah.
oh, money, I don't want to spend money on that. But I always think about it as mental energy and
Mhm.
stress that I don't want in my life because that
Yep.
allows me to create other sources of
Exactly.
revenue,
Exactly.
as opposed to worrying about something I don't even want to worry about
Right.
because I'm not an
And
accountant.
then spending the time to figure out on your own.
Right,
You're just
right.
spinning your wheels.
Which is definitely spinning wheels. And I mean, I'm very good with numbers, so I know what's going on.
Mhm.
Most people don't. And
Yeah. Yeah. No, they don't. Trust me, they don't.
I look at people's numbers and they're like, oh, but I'm making so many sales. And I'm like, what's your profit? They don't even,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
your burn rate?
Yeah.
What are all these numbers? What's
Yeah.
your net? What's your gross cash influx? What's your
Exactly.
cash look like? And they just look at me like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to know those numbers. End of story. You have to know those numbers or you can't
Yeah,
make
you do. Especially if you're trying to grow your business. It's funny, one of my clients, I just met with them last week and they were like, it was a startup like 5 years ago, really busy. And now they've gotten to the point where they feel like, well, now we have the time to sit down and learn what all this stuff is, like learn where our money's going. And so that was kind of exciting to, go over the reports with them. And, they were like, really? I spend that much money on this? And I'm like, yeah, you do.
And they never want to look at that stuff because that stuff isn't sexy.
It's scary sometimes. They don't want to know. They're like, there's money in the bank account. That's how a lot of people are. There's money in the bank account, then I'm good.
Then you're good, but that's
Yeah.
not really the case. I mean, you
No.
don't know how fast you can go from good to terrible when
Yeah.
you don't know what your numbers are.
It
So,
happens in a blink of an eye.
yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I see a lot in my industry is that people are very much focusing on a lot of things that don't matter. Social media, image, this, that, the other
Yeah.
thing, making everything look like it's amazing. And I'm
Right.
like, what in the world? I was like, that's like you're cosmetically making everything look good. You'd be
Right.
better off spending that time and energy looking at the numbers of your business. So,
Right.
I mean, and this is actually true even in your personal life, but it just gets more complicated when you have a
Right.
business. But one
Yes.
should know these things in their personal life.
I mean, I wish they would teach it in high school. I think it should be a mandatory class. I mean, there's like an elective, but I'm sorry. I just think it should be mandatory. Start teaching it a little bit, or not high school, like elementary school, and kind of touch on it throughout their, why they're in that education, because they don't know. And then they get out in the real world and they get to college and they're throwing credit card offers at them. And it's just, they don't know. So,
Well, I think in life in this country, we are not really teaching our youngsters the majority of what they need to know. We
yeah.
basically teach them the bare minimum, I feel, of what they need to
Yeah.
succeed in life. And then we also teach them how to do a lot of sports. And I mean, I'll probably get a lot of crap about this, but I'm sorry. My kids were in martial arts, so it's not like I kept them sedentary in the house. I mean, I understand the importance of being in team sports and exercise and all that. I'm an avid exerciser, so I'm the first person to say that that's not important. However, if it's taking that, I mean, I spent time teaching my boys emotional intelligence
Yeah.
and financial intelligence and all the other things that really matter. And I watch how that's paid off for them
Yeah.
as adults.
That's really good because they don't get that I mean, I didn't see my kids get it, and I didn't get it in high. I mean, I was lucky. I just took accounting, and it just was like, oh, okay. But not everybody gets to take it. So
right, it's so true. So there's a lot that our school system really doesn't teach us. That's really important. But think about it: if we had those skills in high school, we would be much better adults. Even just emotional
yeah,
intelligence. just to not fly off the handle when something crazy happens, just to be calm and grounded and just, it's a valuable skill. I don't think I learned that till I was about 45. So
yeah, no, I agree. Maybe we won't see so many people freaking out at the airport and stuff if like,
yeah, exactly.
you know,
It's like, that's what I'm saying. It's crazy. So, and now I'm curious, how did you and Doug meet? And then how did you know that that was a good fit to be partners?
So Doug and I met at the first firm I worked at. And Doug and I have a similar story where he went to high school. He went to Florida. He didn't last at Florida. They were like, it's time to go. And so he left. And then, so basically, same as me. He was trying to get a CPA like later in life. And I think we kind of clicked over that. But we met at work, and he was in audit and I was in tax. And so we didn't really interact that much together. But then when BDO came and acquired us, the hours got crazy for him. Like, I think he was probably working 100 hours a week, and he was going to leave. He was going to leave BDO. And they said, well, what if we move you to tax? And he was like, okay, I'll stay. And so that's really when we started working together a lot. And then I got in charge of scheduling, like the projects when they get assigned, and I needed some help. And so Doug helped me with that. And that's when we really clicked, like, cause we got it. We were always the most billable. We were always like trying to get work done. Not that that's a great thing, but we just were very similar in that manner. But after a couple of years of BDO, we were both, I don't know if this is going to work. And so Doug actually left about a year before I did. And then when I decided to leave, I just, we kept in touch, but I was like, hey, and we'd always talked about starting something together. And I just reached out and I said, I think this is the time. I'm not going to last. And I'll stay here this tax year, but then I'm out the door. That's what we did.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things that also I find interesting, because I interview a lot of people. I mean, I would say this might be my 39th or 40th episode already on the show. So, but one of the things that I see not only in the people I interview, but just people that I generally meet out there in the world. One thing is that when you work for a corporation, it's a matter of time before they literally start to just take so much of advantage of you that you just almost can't take it anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and that's what it was for me. I mean, every day it was like, well, what are your billable hours this week? Right. Or why is your realization low on this client? I mean, it was like, if I had a phone call with a client, they expected me to invoice them. And I'm like, no, like, that's not how we used to do things. But now that it was BDO, that's all they cared about was realization and billable hours. Right. And it got really taxing on you because it was just like, you just felt like it was never enough. Like, it's just never enough. And I couldn't give anymore.
Yep. And that's literally what I feel that corporate America, I don't know how big that was, but I feel like that is exactly where every corporate structure that I see is exactly the same thing. I know people who are working for like the health insurance company, and and they literally say to me, this gentleman I spoke with a couple of weeks ago said this to me. He says, I literally have he's overweight and he's in bad health. He says he cannot exercise because he works 14 hours a day. And he said, if he didn't work 14 hours a day, he even working 14 hours a day, there's no way he'd even catch up. He'd go on indefinitely. And I said, if you're working 14 hours a day, I hope you're making a lot of money, because I barely make enough to stay alive. And I thought, what is this?
And it's interesting because it's like they acquired all these firms. And that was the trend for a few years. And then it was like, now they're on, because I'm still friends with a few people that still work there. And now it's like consolidate. And, and now it's like, you're not meeting your numbers and you're not doing this. And I'm just like, it's just like, I'm sorry, life's too short. Life is too short. And,
it takes away the joy that you feel doing something that you enjoy. Once you feel rushed, once you feel it's all transactional, it really takes away a human joy and a human element that is important for us to feel. Because that's how I felt in my medical practice. And I worked for myself until I realized I really didn't work for myself. I did work for the government, although sort of, it seemed like I was working for myself. Once I realized that, I was like, oh, I'm really not really working for myself. The insurance companies are still in charge, and the
Yep.
government and Medicare, they're really the ones in charge.
Yeah.
And every time they cut rates, it would just mean I'd have to see more people. And I
Mm-hmm.
enjoying what I was doing because I had to rush and
Yeah.
to see so many people to keep the lights
Yeah.
on. It was annoying. And I said, I
Yeah.
don't. And there were two options for me, I felt at that point. Go work for a hospital
Mm-hmm.
because I probably have talked about this on the show. In the medical system, what happens is if you're a solo practitioner, you can't negotiate better rates from the insurance company because
Right.
there's no manpower.
Right.
There's just you and they don't care.
Yeah.
If they lose you, they're like,
Exactly.
"Oh." But if you have 25 doctors, they don't want to lose those doctors. So at that point, it came to me that I either needed to leave medicine
Right.
or work for a hospital. And
Right.
I was not going to work for the hospital.
Yeah.
So.
No, I have clients who are like, I have a client who's a retired doctor, and that's really why he left. He was with a practice actually. And I can't remember what insurance agency was coming down on them, but he was just like, I'm just tired. I'm just tired of like the fight of, just negotiating all the time. And they take, and so he retired.
Yeah, it is very exhausting. And what happened to the world I remember back when my parents used to take me to the doctor when I was, and I remember it was like they had to pay out of pocket. And
Yeah.
I do remember one time that maybe it was $50. I
Yeah.
don't remember. I was very young, maybe 8 or something, and it was $50. And I thought to myself, I mean, at that point, I didn't know anything. So $50 was a lot of money, right? So I saw people in the waiting room. I multiplied by 50, and I was like, "Oh, that looks really good." Of course, I didn't understand the concept of overhead.
Yeah.
I just thought that's you just take it all home, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's an accounting course back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think that is the way that medicine should go back to, honestly.
Yeah. And I just don't know if it can. I mean, it just seems like all the big insurance companies and the drug companies and everybody that, it's not about the patient anymore or the practitioner. It's just about making money for them and keeping the big corporate train rolling down the road. So.
Right. And I think as entrepreneurs, I mean, I would say that the thing that I feel that all entrepreneurs have in common is that we don't like the way it's being done. We want to do it our way because we feel that there's some value in our way. And then we leave the corporate structure and do something.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's freeing, but then you also realize that, oh, wow, there's some things we have to, you don't think about. It's not a bad thing, but like overhead and like employees. I think employees was my biggest, because I was an intern trainer. I was a team leader. Like I had dealt with employees, but it's different when it's your money paying the employee. And, we've had some struggle. I mean, we have a great team now, but initially I was like, I don't know if I like this.
Well, to be honest with you, that is the thing that was always hardest in the practice to watch. Especially I don't know how many employees you had, but I had about 12 or 15 at one point.
Yeah.
And, I had a pretty big practice. So watching that much overhead go out every 2 weeks for payroll was not easy.
Yeah. And then just dealing with drama, like the drama of, I need to take the day off because I got to take my cat to the vet with my girlfriend. I mean, it's like, I don't need to know that. Like, don't tell me that. Just tell me you're sick. Because when you tell me the truth, I'm thinking, are you seriously asking? Did you seriously just tell me that?
I know it's funny, but it is a hard thing. But I have to say that I've done that. Obviously, I've done the whole employee thing, and now I refuse to do that because I feel that was very stressful for me. And I don't regret that I had done it. I'm glad I had the experience because I've learned a lot managing all of those employees for 15 years, or 20 years actually, that I did it. Obviously, in the beginning, I didn't have that many. In the beginning, it was just a few, and then it got more and more. But I would say that the skills that I learned in managing employees and dealing with all that is invaluable. And watching the numbers so closely, just because, I would literally, there were days that I dreamed about a day that I'd just go to work and just get a paycheck and didn't have money.
No, I think that's normal because I've had days like that too. It's like, gosh, it would be so much easier, but there's too much freedom in working for yourself. Like, I don't think I can ever.
Right. Absolutely. And that's the thing. At some point, I think that there's different seasons for every part of your life. I
Mhm.
enjoyed what I was doing when I was doing it, and
Yeah.
I learned a lot. And then it was just, I think as I got older and my kids were grown, I didn't want to do it anymore. I thought I'd like
Yeah.
to be a little simpler. So again, I think the take home message is for people that you really just got to decide what's right for you when.
Yeah.
Sometimes what's right for you the first 20 years or 5 years of your life isn't
Yeah.
right for you on year 6. And then
Yeah.
you have
Yeah. I
different.
think the day of having the same career from start to finish, I think those are long gone. Like, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
think anybody does that anymore.
No, no. Well, there's too much available, right? We can be
Yeah.
all over the world. We can be on Zoom calls with people.
Mhm.
We can stream from one coast to the other.
Yeah.
I mean, technology has opened up a lot of wonderful avenues for us to do business and to
Yeah.
connect with other people. I'm working on projects with people in Europe right now.
Oh,
And
wow.
back then, that wouldn't have been a possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love the feeling of this, my world has no borders, I can
Yeah.
do lots of projects with all kinds of people all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. And that's like nice to me too, because I don't have clients just based here in Florida. I have them
Mhm.
all over the United States. So it's nice,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just a Zoom meeting away.
How does that work, actually? That leads me to another question. These are probably things that I feel our audience members will be wondering.
Mhm.
So is it like law where do you have to be licensed in every state that you do work
Yes.
with?
I
In
don't have to be licensed in every state. You just have to be a licensed CPA. So
Okay.
to be to have the word CPA on your firm, you have to have a licensed CPA, which we have too.
Right.
Um, but yeah, there's no distinction saying, oh, you have to be. Now, granted, if I was in the state, I would
Mhm.
probably have to get a license in that state to practice. But since it's just remote, it's sort of like, buying from Amazon, and I have, I'm from Northern Virginia, the DC area. So I have a bunch of clients up there and, but, and then, like state tax laws are the ones that are kind of tricky. And, some states are probably like, oh, well, you need to pay us
Mhm.
income tax because you did business in our state. But a lot of times it's if you have an employee or you have a physical presence in the state, which we don't.
Okay.
We're just here in Florida and, you know, not planning on going anywhere else.
Right. Well, that's good to know just because obviously law is very different, medicine is
Yeah.
very different. And I wondered if the same was true for CPAs. So
Yeah.
it's great. People know that if they want to find an accountant and you guys
Hmm.
can do everything over Zoom in any of
Yeah.
the 50 states, which is wonderful. So,
Yeah. It's true. Zoom and
but
email and
the only thing you can't do is come to them if they're
right.
elderly and do the services that you
Right.
have in Florida,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
so sweet.
Yeah.
And also, I remember reading you. So, how many dogs do you have?
Oh gosh. I have 3 dogs,
Oh,
but
okay.
each of my kids has a dog.
Oh,
And so they're like right now I have my son's actually I have my son and my daughter's dog here. So I have 5 dogs in my house right now.
oh my God! I'm
So we have
surprised it's
two
quiet.
labs, a golden retriever, and 2 chihuahuas here at the moment. They're probably being bribed with treats at the moment. Like
Right. I was going to say it's so quiet. I wouldn't
yeah.
even have a menagerie. That's what. So for those of you watching, in Tammy's bio that she sent me, she said she has a menagerie of dogs.
Yes.
So I was like,
I
well,
do.
I said,
I
how
love
much is
dogs.
a
I love
menagerie?
dogs. Love taking them to the beach and it's not really hard because I'll see like a cute puppy and I'll be, and my husband's like, no.
Yeah, that's so funny. Well, I figure at least you've got 3 extras with your 3 kids that you.
Yes.
So now you
Yeah.
really have a total of 6 that are not there full time, which is
Yes.
nice.
Yes.
Wait, you said you had 2 or 3?
I have 3.
You have 3,
I have a
yes.
lab and the 2 chihuahuas. And then
Yeah.
my daughter has the golden. My other son has another lab. And then my oldest son has a German Shepherd mix. And she turns
Okay.
12 this year. It's crazy.
So I didn't ever think I liked dogs. And this
Mhm.
is what's so funny about how you don't know yourself sometimes when you get married really young,
Mhm.
because actually my ex-husband just didn't ever want to have a dog. So in my
Yeah.
mind, he didn't really want a dog. So I didn't really want a dog, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was young and this is what I thought. So of course, after my divorce, about 2 years after my divorce, I was thinking, I really want to get a dog.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure I was actually going to do it. And then I got one. And I mean, he's the best thing.
Yeah. What
I
kind
don't
of
even,
dog do you have?
it's a Maltese Shih Tzu, so it's
Okay.
a small dog. He's about
Yeah.
16 pounds or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was afraid to get a big, I mean, I like big dogs, but
Yeah.
first of all, if, they're harder to travel with and whatnot.
Yes.
Secondly, they are hard if you have to manhandle them in any way. Meaning,
Yes.
I mean, I don't want the dog taking me for a walk. And honestly, I didn't have enough confidence in my own skills to
Hmm.
treat a dog. I didn't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted doing a great
Yeah.
job.
You definitely have to, they're the alpha of the house. Like you have to have that mentality. And it doesn't mean like being mean to your dog or anything. They want that leadership.
Hmm.
And so it's just, and then not that I'm a perfect dog owner, and I've learned over the years, I've had so many dogs throughout my lifetime. But yeah, it's like our little pack.
That's so
So
cute. Well, what I was telling a friend the other day, I said, I literally give my dog the same look I used to give my sons when they were behaving out of line.
yeah,
And there's
yeah,
a look. And my sons react the same way. Whatever they're doing, they stop because they don't want to see that look because they know I'm
yeah.
being. But my dog also recognizes the look and he says, "Oh,
Oh,
I don't, whatever that I'm a
oh, oh, I've crossed the line.
but yeah, they do make life really, really interesting.
They do.
I don't think I understood what that was all about until I actually had a dog. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. That, gosh, we got our first dog as a couple, I think like within 6 months of like when we lived in the house, in the townhouse when we moved in together. So, and
yeah,
it's been a dog ever since. We had cats for a while, but we went back to dogs.
yeah. So I think that's the real big thing is that life doesn't necessarily take you in the direction that you think it's going to.
Oh yeah.
But I think the minute you just embrace it, and in many ways, I haven't really been able to do that till somewhat recently. I think I talked so much about not doing things the way people said because I did everything the way people
Right.
told me to do it. And now I realize how much happier and how much more authentic I feel
Hmm.
not doing anything anybody thinks I should
Yeah.
be doing. I just do what
Yeah.
I think I should be doing.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You take all these twists and turns through life. I feel like eventually you just wind up where you're supposed to be
Hmm.
because you inherently know what you should be doing when.
Yeah.
And if
I
a
agree with that. You just got to start learning to listen to your inner voice and trusting and having a little bit of faith that this is going to, and at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work and you move on to the next thing. I think we just I think we have such a big fear of failure
oh,
that it's not okay to fail. Well, it's okay to fail. That's how you learn.
that's how you learn the biggest lessons and my hardest lessons, but the best ones have been from failures,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's
So
what used to tell my interns, like, because they come in, they're straight A students, school's so easy. And then
mhm.
they prepare their first tax return and they get review comments. What do you mean I have review comments? Like, it's the biggest shock to their system. And I tell them all, it's not,
There's a
for the dogs. Yeah, it's okay to fail because that's how you learn. And it's
exactly.
okay to ask questions. Like, please ask me as many questions, but then learn from it. Don't ask me the same question over and over and over again. But yeah, that's a big learning step for them.
100%. Absolutely. So I was going to ask you, how do you know it's your inner voice? I've asked other people this question, but I feel like everybody I've asked this has a little bit of a different answer. So I'm always curious when it comes
I
up.
think for me, it's just a gut feeling. I've always been good with my intuition and my gut feeling. And I just know, I think it's weird because if I would have stayed at my BDO 1 year longer, I would not be where I am right now. It would have been a totally different, I wouldn't have, they were very supportive when I left.
Hmm.
It was a great mutual, it wasn't a real mutual decision, but the way I approached it, they've been, very nice to me. Like they'll send me clients that are no longer a good fit for them or recommend, I should say recommend.
Okay.
But for me, I don't know. It's just always been a gut feeling. Like you just know deep down inside, even like if I'm doing something and I'm like, I have a feeling I'm forgetting something.
Mhm.
And if I don't listen to it, it bites me. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
but it's just, you just got to learn. You just get this feeling that like, now is the time. And I'm not happy at what I was doing. And, I was miserable and it was scary for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but it's like you just got to do it and trust yourself and know that there's going to be good days, bad days, and
I was going to say for me, it usually starts off as a little whisper in the
Mhm.
beginning when I know I should be doing something. And sometimes I personally am not ready to listen to that.
Yeah.
Just sometimes because my whispers, I know it's something really big that needs to change, especially when I knew I needed to leave medicine. I mean, I
Mhm.
wasn't really ready to listen to that because I had no idea what I was going to do after.
Right.
So that was a very scary whisper. And I thought, oh God, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just pretended not to hear it. And then it just kept getting louder and louder and louder till I feel
Yeah.
like,
There's like signs that are like, all right, now
yeah,
you're
yeah,
giving me all these signs. Like, this is the time.
right, right. And I just really, you saw the landscape, I'm sure, at your company just getting to a point where it was unbearable for you
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
taking over and dominating your life. I saw the
Hmm.
same thing happening in my field. And I said, you know what? I have a choice. I could either continue to do this and be so stuck and scared that I can't
Hmm.
figure anything else out, or I could just take the leap. And I did, and
Yeah.
it worked out great. So, and I
Yeah.
really, and not without trials or tribulations. I think that's
Right.
thing I'd like to point out.
Yeah.
It's
I
never
agree.
easy, but it's about knowing that you're capable and you're capable of making a change that's good for you.
Yeah.
And, the path isn't linear often. It's usually like
Yeah.
you think you wanted to go from here to here, but it's usually
Hmm.
something like that.
Yeah. No, and it's true. I mean, because I think my biggest fear was, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to get clients? Because accountants are introverts. Like, we're not salespeople, although I will say Doug is really great at that. Um,
Yeah, Doug is actually an enigma. He's a really,
Yeah. I
really
mean, and I think that's where we complement each other. Like, we're kind of opposites in a lot of ways, where he's more of a risk taker and I'm more like, okay, come back here a little bit,
well, you need that. You need that
Yeah.
partnership.
Yeah. But I mean, it did. I think if you produce good work and you gain that confidence as you go, and if your clients like you, they tell other people, and then you get those referrals, and it just works.
Mhm.
But I think that's one thing about our firm is we're down to earth, and I'm willing to help people without nickel and diming them, because that's what I came from.
Mhm.
Um, and it's worked so far.
It's huge. I mean, it's not just that it works, it's really the right way to do business because you could look at it. Listen, you could do it the other way and constantly be figuring out how to get more clients because they won't
Right.
leave and go somewhere else because
Right.
they're really that satisfied. Or you could do it this way and your clients are never going to leave you. So you never really have
Right.
to worry that much about acquiring new clients.
Yeah.
And most likely, there's so many different ways to do business. People will send you other because
Yeah.
they're so happy with you. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, that's the right way to do business,
Yeah.
as opposed to constantly looking for new clients. There's so much focus on that right now about
Yeah.
getting more clients. But think about it. If you actually do business in a way that is so valuable to people, you don't have to keep looking for clients because they love you and
Yeah.
they will refer other clients. So problem solved.
Yes. Yes. And I actually switched to dealing with the IRS was not easy, but
Oh God. I mean, government offices. Don't. I
yeah, I
literally
mean, and I should say, like,
spend an hour on
99.9% of the time, it's great, it's easy, but there are some days where you're like, you're just making my life so miserable right now. But we get through it, and
Here's what makes me crazy about these government organizations. They want you to, I don't know, call them, and they have nobody who answers the phone ever.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
I
Well, see,
love.
me and Jack we actually have a service that we use where it kind of gets us to the front of the line.
Oh, good. Okay. So
Yeah.
anyway, but if you as a human being, if you
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're not getting through.
you're
You're
not
not getting through.
okay. So or you have to fax them. And I'm like, what in the world? Don't they
Yeah.
have
And then you have to hope their fax numbers work.
right. I'm like, who's faxing anything anymore? I mean,
Yeah.
really? Are we that up to anyway? That just
Yeah.
cracks me up because
Yeah.
anytime
It's very old school. I mean, I just went from the national tax conference, and the head of the taxpayer advocate was there. And she just recently took over the position, I think, after COVID and all the disasters they went through. And she said she went to one of the processing centers, like where if you paper file a return, where it goes. She said they didn't have staplers, no scanners. And I'm like, well, no wonder everything got so backed up. Like, these poor people, they're just working with not even the bare minimum. I don't even know how you do your job like that without like
I know it's
So,
crazy. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I was like, I just realized we're almost time. So thank you very much for sharing your insights about your life and your work and everything. And again, thank you for sponsoring Gloves Off every week.
oh, my pleasure. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, well, good, good. Well, you have a great evening and great to see you. Bye.
Same here. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. It's always great to sit down with people who are partners and just see one side of, Doug talks differently. He has different viewpoints. Tammy has different viewpoints. But I really do think it's people who have different viewpoints that come together in the best way, as long as they can respect each other's viewpoints. So next week, I'm going to be interviewing Shanti Refuge. She has a really interesting story, a difficult childhood, and she was able to turn all of that trauma around just by journaling. So we're going to dive deep into her story next week. And I also want to remind you guys that I'm on this show also streams on LinkedIn. You can follow me at DrKalpana.Unbound. You can also find me at DrKalpana.Unbound on YouTube and on Facebook, as well as Instagram. It's under the same handle on all of those. And on YouTube in particular, I do post some additional videos and whatnot. I've been a little slacking lately. It's around this holiday time, I'll admit, but I always will post things. So if you get to see, you'll get to see some additional content. So as always, we will see you guys next week. And thanks for joining us for another episode of Gloves Off.